Hello, I'm Azai. Welcome back to Tokyo Necro. This is exactly the next day after the last episode. And yeah, I did not go through with the last episode and, continue with the recording since I learned from my lesson. This game really tries to make new arcs out of nowhere, even though you might think that the game's already done with its climax. Milgram's already done, but Olga suddenly came out of nowhere and does some stuff, so I feel like we are going to be finishing the game today, at least. But yeah, that does make me not able to record Kichikuo rants today, so that's kind of a bummer. But alright, not going to talk too much about what's going on. Last episode, gonna just do a short recap. We beat up Hokuyasu, we beat up Milgram. Iria is still dead, and I believe we're not going to revive her at all. So I think, yeah, she's gonna stay dead. Olga got away after being handed to Kazuma. I was kinda cranky the last episode because it felt like I said, after like such a melancholic like feeling that you had after beating up Milgram, the game kind of forces you into like a comedy routine slash, I don't know, like trying to make you feel better. I feel like sometimes you don't really need that. You don't need someone to actually say anything to you. You just need some time to process what the hell is going on, right? But yeah, it is what it is. I guess that might also be Japanese culture. But let's continue on. We are trying to hunt Olga back. And we don't know where the hell she is. Well, we do. I think Kazuma actually gave her like some sort of beacon or a transmitter. So we're at the Tokyo something building. Holding his trusty Ogasawara TFD-20, Tokitaka looks up at the old Tokyo detention house. There we go. Half buried in snow, its colossal remains tower along the edge of the river. The Sino-American War left its walls riddled with bullet marks, and a good portion of the building has already collapsed. It now stands here alone and desolate, completely frozen in time.
ホットパイプの這わない東京郊外。荒川を越えれば山手線内も狙える。隠れ家にはうってつけね。何が気に入ったって、ここにはホットパイプがない。気兼ねなくぶっ放せるぜ。
Etika slings her fully automatic shotgun across her shoulder. She's clearly ready for action. It would appear the injury Kazuma suffered at Snowbound Nirvana wasn't life-threatening. With that said, the military police have taken a blow to their image. They're likely already on their way here to set things right. I do feel kind of bad though for Son. I think it's said that it's been 3 days since Iria died. But there's no way that 3 days is enough to grieve someone, right? So you basically have like 0 time to grieve. And he's already thrusted into this whole mess again.
みんな、いい？軍警察に先んじて、賞金たくさんせしめるわよ。
もちろんです。
やった、今夜はごちそうだ。なあ、そう。
あ、そうだな。
I respond with a vague nod, but to be perfectly honest, I'm feeling confused and uncertain. While everyone else is busy checking their gear, I stand in place, unsure of what to do. Oh, I think I know what's going to happen. So, if you guys remember on the last episode, before we end the episode, on the loading screen, we saw Iria, right? I think Olga is going to make Son hallucinate and see Iria. Don't get fooled, Son. I really hope you don't get fooled. I feel isolated, like I've been cut off from the rest of the world.
休むか?
Etika suddenly asks.
どうせ残ってんのは雑魚どもだ。 私たちでなんとかなるって。
I give her suggestion some thought. Can I still do this? Is there any point to me continuing to fight? Why am I even here in the first place? Converting input into output. Re-killing the dead. Taking down criminals. What purpose is there to all that? Does my life have any value at all?
でもさ、
I mean, as long as you're still alive soon, we're always trying to find something new to, you know, make our lives meaningful.
やるんだったら、これ以上心強い仲間はいない。
Ethica holds out my X-Brain helmet.
どうする？
I look to my side. Tokitaka pats me on the shoulder. I turn around. Ryoko nods. Ethica's extended hand. Tokitaka patting my shoulder. Ryoko's nod. What sort of input are these? What sort of output? I don't know. But even in my confusion, I feel somewhat relieved. Of course, it doesn't suddenly make the pain go away. My wounds are still very much there. There will always be scars, even when they've closed up. And yet, I feel glad to be here. At the very least, I think I know what I must do now. I'd be lying if I said I had no doubts. Even now, I feel uncertain about my place in the world. But, I'm sure I'll be able to figure it out one day. I reach for my X-Brain. Ethica looks rather happy as she hands it over. I answer her smile with my own. It feels like the right thing to do.
スーちゃんがバッチリ調整してくれたから、多分めちゃくちゃ調子いいよ。
あ、
The X-Brain feels like it belongs in my hands. A reliable ally to match my two re-eliminators. My father may have died, but a part of him lives on in my mind. Even after Hikatsu's death, his memories fill Ryoko with strength. Major General Kibanohara is gone, yet Ethica has managed to move on and live for the future. That never-ending cycle of life and death is what makes up the weave of human existence. At long last, I place the X-Brain on my head. And as I do, my vision is filled with the sights of another world. I find myself on a beach I know all too well. It's neither warm nor too cold. The flakes of snow fluttering down from above melt into the sky before reaching the ground. I guess this is what Kansu did, or, you know, what Kansu was telling Ethica to tell Son about. Surrounded by the ebony sea, I stand in place as the waves caress my feet. This feels out of place though. We're trying to kill Olga and this is happening right now. Only their rhythmic churning reaches my ears. I slowly make my way deeper into the water, heading toward a faint, prismatic light.
Yahoo.
Oh, is this not Olga's illusion? I guess this is, This is weird. I can't contain my smile. Or rather, there's simply no need to. There's no one here but us. Iria. Hagyo Iria. That's right. She's Hagyo Iria. We have met again. Inside her midnight shores.
イリア、これで僕は君との約束を守ったことになるのかな。
そう、言っておくよ。これはただの仮想環境プログラムじゃないの。 これは記憶。君の無意識が保持する記憶。
That's still fake though, right? I don't know.
お父さんの記憶が君のものになったように、これも君のものなの。
So you're basically a projection from my ex-brain, right? You're basically an AI area, I guess.
そうか。
嘘じゃないよ。
Iria takes me by the hand. Her touch is soft and warm against my skin. There's no doubt about it. She's the Hagyo Iria I know so well.
です。
I nod. The X-brain is probably like rousing some sort of electrical signals to our brain so that we feel something when she touches us. Man, I'm like trying to make so many excuses to make it seem like this is not Iria. Because I just can't accept that this is Iria. She's dead. It finally all makes sense. Now I know why I chose not to revive her. Iria's right here with me. She lives on in my mind. And that allows me to finally accept that Hagyo Iria, the girl I love so much, has indeed died.
ありがと
Yeah, so I guess even if this is fake, like it's not really my place to judge people, right? Whether they want to see their vision of their dead lover or whatnot.
う。僕はもう大丈夫だ。
As long as that doesn't like make them into like a worse person, you know?
本当に？
本当に
もう辛くない？
辛い。でもそれは僕が生きている証だ。
でもきっと楽しいこともいっぱいあるよ。
生きている限り希望はある。
そうなのさ。
She makes a bright, carefree smile. I burn her face into my mind, vowing never to forget it.
私はいるよ。ずっとここにいる。いつでも待ってる。だから。
Oh, sorry about that. I take a deep breath. I know exactly how I feel. And it won't ever change, even now that she's gone. I'll have to live on like this. It won't be easy, but I mustn't forget how I truly feel.
宝行イリア、僕は君を愛してる。
You know, stuff like this, right? I'm thinking about like when you love someone and that person dies. I wonder what's the correct like thoughts that you should have. Should you continue on living, like forgetting about the person that you love and find another sort of love? Should you continue loving the person and not try to find any sort of love anymore? What is the correct like choice? I'm kind of like trying to, what is it, like compare Son's dilemma to my dad's, basically. Like my mom died, right? And he chose to find his own happiness through another marriage. And I kind of blame him for it because it felt like she was betrayed somewhat. And you know, like I know my dad enough that yeah, he probably forgot about mom a lot faster than you'd like to think. But I guess enough about that. It's not really about my story. It's just I'm not really sure which choice is actually the correct one.
私も
I personally think that if I have a lover and she died first before me, I wouldn't find another lover. But people's choices are different, I guess.
愛してる
I feel a strong urge to kiss her, to hold her close. But Iria shakes her head. I respond with a nod. Her rainbow tears send ripples across the water. Wait, this is the end? Oh my god. I can't believe it. I should have just progressed through the story last episode. I missed that sentence too. Her dazzling light begins to fade. Oh my god, I've been recording for like 15 minutes. As she melts into the ebony sea around us. Do I just tack on this episode, like on the last episode, and continue Kichikuo rants? It's time for me to go. To leave these midnight shores. I hope there's like an epilogue or, like I said, like a route that ties up every loose end, right? This place beyond time, space, and matter. And so, I return to the Tokyo of 2199, where all the people dear to me are waiting. To a world brimming with hope. I guess this route is actually a lot shorter than I thought. I thought it was gonna go a lot longer because, you know, it was feeling like we were gonna do something with Olga, right? So I was cautious. Konsu's route really made me cautious about the whole game being a lot longer than it seems. I was always feeling that it was going to be over in Konsu's route after like each action segment was done, but it never got done. Alright, now I guess I'll give you guys my opinion about this route. And I guess the whole game as a whole, right? If this is actually the end of the game and there's no, like, conclusion, like I said. I think Iria's route is pretty good. But it had some really weird plot points that I feel like are plot holes, right? The fact that Takeyuki was supposed to be dead after the jungle scene, but he actually went back home so that Son saw him have sex. I find that kind of weird. And then, what else? The fact that it became like Super Shonen at the end, where friendship power triumphs over Milgram. That I don't really mind, that's still pretty nice. But I do feel like the action scenes should have been a lot more, you know, less shonen and more about actual fighting prowess and all that. But I guess that's fine. It's not like all too bad. I do like the fighting scene with Milgram. Hokoyasu and Etika's fight in this one felt quite underwhelming. I don't know how Etika suddenly got the upper hand in Hokoyasu. I guess, yeah, this game is all about, you know, like your feelings triumphed over like everything else. But I'm an adult now, and I know for a fact that sure, your feelings do affect some of the stuff that you can do physically, but not by much. When I was a kid, I thought that my feelings could influence a lot of stuff, sure. But the more I grow older, the more I'm like, yeah, it doesn't really do that. There are just physical, like, limitations that you can't overcome. Okay, we're probably going to the title screen now, and let's see if there's anything about it, about the title screen that changed. Because after every route, the title screen does have some sort of new stuff added in. So I'm curious whether or not there's an actual, like, new thing. Okay, everything is a rainbow now. Resuggest. Search. Is this the new thing? Is this a new thing? I think this might be a new thing. I don't remember this being here before. This is trippy. What am I searching for, though? The title screen in this game is certainly unique, by the way. I still feel like the best ending is probably Khonsu's ending. Though I feel like the antagonist is not really that good. It was just the red blob. If it was like Milgram killing all those people, it would have been a lot more epic, I feel. The antagonist, the best antagonist I feel like is in Kiri's route, which was Hokuyasu. I guess each route has its own, like, good thing about it. Am I supposed to press that? I'm supposed to search for death? I exist. I am here. I was here from the start. Expiration. Blood pressure decreasing. Mental activity slowing. Heart maintains body. Obstruction to heartbeat prevents circulation. Cranial nerve activity ceases. Repose. When a human body has ceased vital function, biological self-regulation cannot be maintained. A form of physical change that occurs in the physical realm. Eternal rest. Strange. Something is strange. Very strange. But what is strange? Passing on. No matter how I look, I cannot find the answer. What should I do? I want to know. What is death? Maximum overclock. 1 second becomes an hour, a day, a year. Calculate. The world's possibilities. Human life and death. Are we like Subcon or something? Annihilation. Nagaoka Son dies. Kibanohara Ethica dies. A matrix of life and death. A decision tree of future possibilities. A branch where I take control of an X-brain. I guess this is like some meta gaming or something. This is basically the character, right? End. I grieved. I suffered. Wait, what's that scene in the left one I enjoyed? Who is that with Ethica? I guess that's Son? I rejoiced. Wait, I can't search anymore. End of life. Oh, there we go. I knew. Multitudes of deaths, multitudes of lives, multitudes of emotions. But it's not enough. There's so much more I want to know. About people, about life, about the heart. Ascension. I changed perspective and faced the past. Are we gonna re-zero stuff? Wow, this is a long, minus. 0.00 was when we have to choose between Iria and Milgram. Pavlov cherishes the sensation of death existing inside him. It all began when a landmine blew off his leg back during the war. As he bled out on the battlefield, his consciousness fading, he injected Lemurs into a nearby corpse lying on the ground and transplanted its leg onto his own. A hybrid of the living and the dead, the union proved more harmonious than he had anticipated, and thus, Pavlov would go on to slowly remodel his body, piece by piece. His hands, his legs, his torso, and finally, his head. The brain is the human body's most vulnerable body part, so why not transplant it into the torso, the human body's most easily defendable body part? It was a completely rational idea in his mind. But it would be difficult to perform such a procedure on himself. If his brain lost its signaling pathway to the spinal cord, he risked losing the ability to move his body. As dangerous as it was though, he went through with the operation. The idea was absurd, and yet he knew no other way to ascertain his own life, his own humanity. In Pavlov's eyes, necromancy was a means of feeling death to bring oneself closer to life. Pavlov gazes upon the vice-governor, fastened to the chair before him. His lungs have already breathed their last breath. His brain has already transmitted its last signal. He will never move again, at least, not unless he's injected with Lemurs.
あら、もう終わったのかしら。
Pavlov turns around to see his comrade, Olga. It doesn't make sense, though, that he hasn't transplanted his brain to his stomach yet. Because remember, when Son... Oh, no, I guess it does make sense. Son's dad, shot him in the heart and not his brain. So I guess that's why he's still alive.
ええ。処分をお願いできますか。
それが私の仕事ですもの。でも使わなくていいの？
東京は材料には事書きません。
確かにそうね。
Pavlov has designed many different hi-fi living dead for his comrades. One of his subjects was a member of a paratrooper unit. He was a professional who would be deployed from an altitude of tens of thousands of meters up, detach himself from his reinforced orbital strike exoskeleton, and infiltrate enemy lines using a jetpack. But then his wife had an extramarital affair and bore another man's child. As it turns out, a jump from a building only 7 stories in height was enough to claim this aerial warrior's life. Touched by the iconic twist of fate, Pavlov remodeled him into a flying hi-fi living dead. Oh, that guy. He called him the High Jumper. A flying hi-fi boasting adjustable wings and a hydrogen peroxide engine. Its main weapon is an ultramagnetic whip. By combining its traits as a living dead with the output from its engine, it's able to perform maneuvers that would be impossible for a living human. Uses the body of a former paratrooper who committed suicide by leaping from a building after learning that his wife had another man's child. Man, if my wife actually had an affair, one, I'd probably blame myself for being such a poor judge of character. Two, I probably would sue my wife. But I guess I can't really sue her for anything, right? I guess I just divorce her or something. Another subject was a member of a Navy Special Operations Group. But rather than actually going for suicide like what he did, I probably would have killed her myself. During a withdrawal from an isolated East Asian island in the Sino-American War, with supplies and morale running low, he single-handedly killed 44 enemy soldiers wearing his land combat exoskeleton. But upon returning to his homeland, he lost himself. While visiting a shopping mall one day, he fell into a rage and began plucking firearms from a display case, firing them at passerby. Once he had exhausted the ammunition of every gun in the store, he hanged himself. Wait, who are we talking about? Oh, another subject. Different person. Touched by the man's desires, Pavlov created a blueprint for a body that could shoot more guns than anyone had ever shot before, and entrusted it to Olga. I guess this is the Asura guy, the guy we fought in the fortress. He called him the Neck Hanger. Yet another subject was a member of the Close Quarters Armed Martial Arts Training Unit. After the Sino-American War, he became Tokyo's top living dead stalker, an impediment to Milgram's efforts in Tokyo. Guess this is Ikatsu. Milgram lured him out with a decoy and poisoned him to death in an underground parking lot. As the poisonous gas spread, the man took off his X-brain and put it on his wife to save her life. Touched by the man's devotion, Pavlov created for him a body that would allow him to spread poisonous gas himself. He called him the Gas Poisoner. I can't believe we don't have a trivia segment for that. Each of his creations have their own part to play, their own significance. He finds no purpose in creating a hi-fi living dead out of a weak, flabby body that is useless for anything but sexual activity. Pavlov saves the snuff video that was just recorded onto a holographic cube before shoving it into the vice governor's mouth. He then hands over the corpse to Olga, along with the thermal karambit he borrowed.
これをわざわざ使うなんて、そんなに東京が憎い？
いえ。
Pavlov had always yearned to visit Japan. The origin of the aesthetic concepts of mono no aware and wabi-sabi, I have no idea what those are. The appreciation of ephemeral things and the acceptance of their transience and imperfection. Okay, thank you for explaining. He had hoped that a city like Tokyo would offer him a new perspective, teach him what beauty was. But Tokyo is an unsightly city. He can feel no beauty from its disorderly expansion, and thus, torturing the vice governor of Tokyo was perhaps, in part, a means of venting his frustration with the city.
単優賞は？
殺されました。長岡総雲。
へえ、本当に？
本当です。
私も東京にいた甲斐があったものだわ。
Olga flashes a smile and dote with an ineffable melange of emotions.
長岡総雲が本当にミルグラム様を殺すに足る人間なのか。
そのために 池袋に向かったのね。
Dragging along the vice governor's large body with ease, Olga asks a question as she leaves the torture room.
彼の念願は叶うかしら。
そう願います。
Pavlov cannot understand beauty. He cannot perceive the difference between the living and the dead. He cannot perceive the world as it is perceived by Milgram, the man he so fervently admires. As a member of the Suicide Wannabes, he has often struggled with this personal failing. At times, he has even considered becoming a living dead himself, so that he may finally be free of such concerns. Let's say you were to replace a single neuron in your brain with a chip. The you in your brain would likely stay you. But what if you were to increase the number of chips? What if you were to gradually replace your brain with chips, replacing its cellular composition with a mechanical one? I think something like this was also mentioned in 999 about how, say you have like a favorite pair of socks, and then those pair of socks has a hole in it, and then at some point you keep replacing the new holes with, you know, other parts from different parts of socks. Is it going to be the same thing, right? Would you disappear, or having replaced every other part of his body with that of the living dead, his brain is the only part of him that is alive? For now, Pavlov still retains hope that he may one day find beauty in the world. Wow, we're going back like super far away now. What the fuck? Tang Yunshan is a former member of the Cheetah Special Operations Group of the People's Liberation Army. From childhood, he was trained as an elite soldier. Alongside his comrades, he learned the most efficient means of killing his enemies. He sacrificed any notion of finding joy in this world. He had but one purpose: to hone his skills. He was supported by his devotion to the motherland, his honor as a martial artist, and above all else, his dedication to his comrades. After all, the only reason he was able to endure his brutal training was because he had his comrades at his side. If he fought for a reason, then it was to protect his comrades. The cheetahs were united in this sentiment. They shared a bond deeper than familial love, deeper than even romantic love.
久しぶりだな。礼を言う。狂気に陥らずに済んだのはあなたのおかげだ。
恨んではいないのか。当時のお前は彼らを維持できなかっただろう。
彼らは今もここにいる。
Tang proudly presents his Langshan. Its tip shines with the fresh blood of Kuroshima Michiya. After witnessing firsthand the artistic massacre crafted by Nagaoka Takeyuki on the battlefield, Tang was left with one path. He was the sole survivor, and Milgram had provided him with l'amours. There was no conceivable alternative other than to use it. And use it he did. The dead bodies of his comrades instantly sprang to life. And thus the cheetahs were reborn as a group of living dead, and their necromancer. Alas, Tang lacked experience as a necromancer. In the hot and humid environment, his comrades' bodies rapidly began to decay. Tang could only watch as they slowly rotted away. Gradually, their bodies grew more sluggish, their stench more putrid. Their internal organs swelled with the buildup of gas until they burst, spewing out the maggots feasting on their flesh from within. And yet their brains still clung to life. With yellow bile dribbling from their mouths, the things that were once Tang's comrades lovingly called out to him. He could not hear them clearly, but Tang was sure they were saying his name. He didn't need to hear the rest to understand what they were saying. Tang re-killed his beloved comrades. He knew all too well that his own incompetence was at fault. The tears he shed were not for himself. Enduring the putrid stench, Tang dissected the decomposed bodies, salvaging whatever body parts were still usable. He vowed to never forget this disgrace until the day he died.
それに俺が復讐を果たすべきは長岡武之ただ一人。
Milgram thrusts out the piece of paper. It is Hagyo Iria's medical record. Written on it is a note stating that she has been transported to the fortress.
彼女はおそらくいい餌になるはずだ。美しい復讐の絵を描くが。
Tang Yunshan nods at those words, a fire burning in his eyes. Well, that was the precursor to the game. Wow, this is what? Is this gonna be Nagaoka Takeyuki? Gijo Mitsumi gazes upon the body of Sumihiko laid out upon the bed. Having picked up intel about the appearance of a new necromancer, she and Sumihiko headed to Tokyo Radio Tower roughly half a day ago. After an unexpected living dead assault, Sumihiko took a serious injury to the chest. One glance, there we go, typo there, was enough to tell that the wound was fatal. Mitsumi was shaken to her very core. Her technique was nothing compared to Sumihiko's. How could she hope to fend off the hordes of living dead by herself? All hope seemed lost. Until a man clad in a raven-black X-Brain came to her rescue, his twin re-eliminators making swift work of his foes. The beauty of his fighting style was enough to make her forget the shock of losing her brother, if only for a moment. His sheer accuracy, his unwavering precision, his efficient motions, he was like a work of art come to life. He must have had other urgent business to take care of. After yet finished re-killing all of the living dead surrounding her, he vanished before she could even thank him. Clearly, he was another living dead stalker, but Mitsumi had more important things to attend to. Her brother was on the brink of death. Before she knew it, she found herself in the emergency ward of the military police hospital.
諦めきれないか、議長三つみ。
Mitsumi knows the man who has appeared by her side. Major General Kibanohara Hokuyasu, the man who scouted her and her brother as living dead stalkers. Hokuyasu is known for his lack of empathy. He offers Mitsumi no comfort, simply the cold, hard truth.
住彦は死んだ。
This is actually the first time we saw that sprite of hers. She looks very young there. She knew that without him having to say it. But the moment he puts it into words, she could no longer turn her eyes away from the truth. She could no longer escape into her memories. Her older brother Sumihiko is dead.
師範は怒り狂っているそうだ。アドタイ流の面汚しめ、二度と帰ってくるなと。
Hardly surprising, Gijo Tenyo, Mitsumi and Sumiko's father, is singularly dedicated to the promotion of the Atai school. He allowed the two siblings to work as living dead stalkers despite their youth and inexperience, hoping that they would serve as a form of advertisement. If it becomes public knowledge that Sumihiko had been killed by the living dead, irreparable damage will be dealt to Atai's reputation. Is that how you say irreparable? I actually don't know. Isn't that supposed to be like an I there? Could be wrong though. So it's only natural that he'd abandon her now. Mitsumi is lost. What should she do now? Sumihiko was her pillar of support. Oh, they didn't have a new sprite for him when he was still alive. They still use his dead one. Growing up, she was by no means a martial arts prodigy. In the eyes of her father, she was a disgrace of a daughter. It was always Sumihiko who had protected her. With him gone, she is truly alone in the world. And thus, Hokuyasu's next words pierce into the deepest recesses of her soul.
兄を救いたいか。
救う
What does he mean? Sumihiko is already dead. Is there a way to save him?
条件がある。お前の力を我々のために使わせろ。そうすればお前は今まで通り兄と共に暮らせるだろう。
Mitsumi isn't stupid. She understands the implications of Okuyasu's offer. He is a devil whispering in her ear. If she accepts, a part of her will be tainted. And yet she cannot resist. His words are all too tempting.
我々と共に来るか。
She can continue living with her brother. That's all that matters. I guess some people just cannot, help but choose the easier answer or the easier choice. Mitsumi takes Okuyasu's outstretched hand. That is the only future within her reach. You can also make your own future, by not relying on Okuyasu. Kara Suzumi Ryoko receives data collected by a micro-robot in the Hamamatsucho monorail station's underground parking lot. Their target has barricaded himself in a place once known as a Zojoji Temple. The planned time of the raid is at noon. It's still a little early to hold their briefing. Son contacts her. As Living Dead Stalker apprentices, he and Tokitaka have been assigned to support the operation from the Tokyo radio tower. The assignment itself is an easy one. The two of them are still getting acclimated to the job.
そうね。あなたたちが気づかれてるとは思わないけれど、確認してきてくれる？
Yeah, we saw this scene before from, Son's perspective.
いいか、そう。
Ikatsu, sitting next to her, cuts in.
いざとなったら親父に従うんだぞ。
はい。
Son gives a firm answer and ends the call.
どうしてあんなことを？
ん？
竹内さんを持ち出すなんてあなたらしくないわ。
そうかもしれんな。
What is like me, Ikatsu nods to himself. Sometimes I feel really conflicted when people say stuff like that. When they say you're not like yourself. It feels awkward hearing that. Because sometimes I myself don't know what's like myself, So how would people say that? Like they know how I'm usually like. Something tells Ryoko that in Ikatsu's eyes, or rather, the eyes of all of the members of the Close Quarters Armed Martial Arts Training Unit, Nagaoka Takeyuki was special, in a league of his own.
どうして彼にあのエクスブレインを？
近接柔術の要だろ？
でもあれはわざわざ木場野原大佐から譲り受けたんでしょ？
まあな。
Ikatsu scratches his head.
見てると思い出すんだよ。天才の芸術的な殺しをな。
戦争は終わったわ。
焼いてんのか？
私はただ。
Ikatsu gropes Ryoko's chest through her combat uniform.
美しいってのも嫌いじゃないが、俺様はこっちの方が好きだぜ。
It feels like Ikatsu really didn't have too much development in this game. I do feel like, for all that he's, set to be a god and whatnot, I really hope that he had more development. But I guess he was already dead before the game even started, right?
生きてるって感じがする。
一括さん、ダメ、こんな時に。
まだ時間はあるだろう。愛してるぜ、リョコ。
There certainly is still time. The Necromancer this time around isn't a terribly fearsome adversary either. Ryoko is used to Ikatsu using her as an outlet for his pent-up excitement before a mission. Her skimpy combat outfit was chosen to help him get in the mood. should he so please. Inside the cramped confines of the Strider, Ikatsu violently pulls Ryoko's body toward as he gropes her chest. I guess toward him. The Strider's door opens, and a gas bomb is thrown inside. White smoke fills the vehicle's narrow interior instantly. There's so many typos in this one. Ryoko quickly comes to a conclusion. It's most likely poison gas. She checks the surroundings using the micro-robots. There's a compressed air car blocking passage to and from the underground parking lot. Hordes of living dead armed with guns appear out of nowhere, surrounding them. It's an ambush. Perhaps this entire incident was nothing more than a ruse to lure out Ikatsu. At the very least, this is no ordinary opponent they're up against. Well, we just saw Pavlov's perspective, so we know that this is Pavlov's job, dirty work. Ikatsu's thought process is not nearly as quick as Ryoko's. But through countless experiences on the battlefield, he has forged an unmatched instincts as a warrior. He shouts, directing his gaze through the windshield. Milgram was gone before Ryoko could even catch a glimpse of him, but Ikatsu would never fail to recognize the foe he grew so intimately acquainted with in Malaysia. He understands everything now. Ikatsu places his own X-Brain on Ryoko's head. This is the very same X-Brain he wore in the battlefield, and as such, it functions as a gas mask. Fighting back cuffs, Ikatsu reassures her with a voice that sounds anything but reassuring. Members of the Close Quarters Armed Martial Arts Training Unit had detoxification nanomachines stored within their bodies. Upon returning to Tokyo, Ikatsu stopped performing nanomachine maintenance altogether. And besides, Milgram went to this much trouble to set up his trap. It's probably a new type of poison gas which nanomachines wouldn't be familiar with. Ikatsu vomits blood all over the X-Brain's visor. Ryoko desperately tries to take the X-Brain off and put it on Ikatsu's head, but he presses her arms down on her firmly. Tears stream down Ikatsu's face as he tries to grit his teeth and bear the pain. Kara Suzumi Ryoko harbors deep feelings for Kara Suzumi Ikatsu. Feelings that cannot be expressed simply with the word love. At times, she accepts even his most unreasonable demands. Subordination. Isn't this what people call nowadays, toxic love? Or toxic devotion or toxic feelings? I guess if she's not really not enjoying her time with Ikatsu, that's not our place to judge. At times, she abandons everything just to serve him. Devotion. At times, she gently runs her hands across the scars on his back, attempting to feel the pain he has suffered. Compassion. At times, she trembles from his words alone. Intimacy. A single word alone cannot describe how she feels about Ikatsu, just as a single word alone cannot describe Ikatsu as a person. But one thing is for certain, Ikatsu's existence is an overwhelmingly huge part of her life. Losing him would be an unbearable loss for Ryoko. Ikatsu coughs up blood as he delivers one final order to Ryoko. He has cursed her to live on without him. He has given her a reason to live on without him. Man, we are just keep going back. Back when Kansu was still called Riza, the rooftop of the Kubukuro Child Protection Center was her and Iria's favorite place to be. She looks up to the cloudy sky as she listens to the artificial roar of waves. An intense updraft melts the falling snow before it touches the ground.
ねえ、リザ。何、イリア。とうとう二人きりだね。
Taking the synesthesia drug allows you to drive on the highway by scrambling your senses. One wrong step and your consciousness fades into the network, unable to connect back to your body. As the facility's research progressed, their experiments grew ever more dangerous. Many children were lost in the highway, never to return. Another test subject was lost a few days prior, leaving Iria and Kansu the only 2 residents in a room meant for 6. On days like these, Iria and Kansu come here. The sound of the waves alone offers their souls solace.
変わったね。
In the past, the rooftop was filled with cheerful voices, but now it's deathly silent. Kansu closes her eyes. Her imagination takes flight. A white dove soars into the endless blue sky. Dim sunlight beams down from above.
ねえ、イリア、本物を見たくない？本物？そう。あれ。
Kansu points beyond the ocean. Past the jungle of abandoned buildings and the haze of snow, a floating island is visible, glowing green amid the dark gray hues of Tokyo Bay.
東京メガフロート。この風景はそれをモデルにしてできた。ここじゃダメなの？
Kansu can't think of an argument. Without knowing the beauty of the real midnight shores, they have no frame of reference. They have no way of being certain that they are content with the fake. If they remain here, they will simply accept death, for this place has nothing else to offer them. Kansu dreams of a brighter future.
イリア、一緒にお昼寝しよう。お昼寝？いいけど、夜眠れなくなるよ。夜部屋を抜け出して、あの場所を見に行こう。あの場所？
There's a conspicuous blank spot in the floor plan of the 6th floor experimental ward. Iria noticed it during a period of rapidly enhanced spatial perception following an experiment. There must be something there.
でも、見つかったら。大丈夫。私には、一度だけ魔法が使える。
Hacks stop working once you've finished flipping over the cards. As soon as your hand is revealed, your methods are accounted for and can no longer be used again. You only have one chance. Kansu has chosen to stake their lives on whatever secrets that room may hold. Is this going to be when we face Milgram as Takayuki? Nope, it's Tokitaka. I guess this is when Tokitaka's dad got killed by Ikatsu. Ichihara Tokitaka is enamored of math. Theorems are derived from axioms and form a single enormous system. There's no room for doubt in the world of math. It is pure reason, and reason alone. The axiomatic system proposed by the ancient mathematicians of Alexandria still holds true today, 2,500 years later. An absolute truth, unwavering throughout human history. Could there be anything greater, more valuable? Tokitaka is not even 10 years old, but he's already absorbed into the world of mathematics. Today, he's solving a papyrus sheet of math problems once again. I actually don't know what the hell he's trying to calculate. As long as he is concentrating on numbers, he can escape the reality that he's in an abandoned building in Ikebukuro, surrounded on all sides by gang violence. The fact that he must spend every day in a place like this must be some sort of mistake. His father is useless human garbage. He deserted the self-defense army in Southeast Asia during the Sino-American War. Afterward, he studied necromancy from the locals and returned to Japan with the Malacca gang. Using his connections with the Malacca gang, he manages to scrape out a living as a necromancer for hire in the Ikebukuro area. He makes a profit off of death. If only karma would catch up to him. If only he would die. Tokitaka hates that he must live under the wing of someone so contemptible. Fortunately, the pure world of mathematics offered him an escape. By immersing himself in numbers and symbols, he can detach his mind from reality, as he is doing now. I guess to some degree, most people do that with a lot of different things, Tokitaka. For you, it's just math. For me, back in the day, I guess it was games. His eyes are fixed to the papyrus. Focusing his consciousness on the mathematical beauty derived by the great mathematicians of the past, he ignores the screams coming from downstairs. He ignores the echoing gunshots. He ignores the second death throes of the living dead. He ignores the sadistic laughter as the building shakes with violence. He ignores the voice of his father begging for mercy. Numbers. This world is imperfect. Nothing can bring order to it. Man, Tokitaka? I think usually when people have a monologue about this, they're usually the main villains. Surprising that you didn't turn out into someone evil, man. So why should he concern himself with it? What meaning is there to be found in such an ugly place? The world of math is perfect, orderly. It is composed only of objective truths. Its foundation is bedrock, unaffected by the passage of time. So what does it matter what happens here today? Eventually, everything goes quiet. Tokitaka ignores the stench of death drifting up from down below. He chooses to avert his eyes from our world for just a little longer, even as a part of him is aware that one day, he too must tread through the mire of imperfection. For the sake of his own survival and protecting those dear to him. So we don't really see much except for, glimpses and pieces of the past. So, is this going to lead to somewhere? Because it seems to me that we're not really, having a conclusion. We're just revisiting the past. Aso Kiriri was too young. She could not understand the concept of death. Her mother, Aso Yukari, was a researcher and thus constantly away from home. So Kiriri was used to spending time with her caretaker robot. So it simply felt like her mother had gone far away one last time. Yukari was a single mother. The Sino-American War had taken away her other relatives. My mom was actually she was a housewife, so she was home for the most part. I feel like when she was dead, I had the same sort of feeling that I wasn't able to wrap my head around the concept of death. So yeah, I probably thought that she was gonna return at some point too. It was Kibanohara Hokuyasu, a former friend of Yukari's, who took custody of the orphan Kiriri. She's kinda cute with that bandage on her nose. Usually the kids with bandages on their nose are like the tomboy type. You really don't see that in Kiri.
キリリか。
戦争が終わったのですよね。お疲れ様でした。
そうだ。
Hokuyasu had changed. He was now a different person than the Kibanohara Hokuyasu that Aso Yukari always used to sing the praises of. His face had lost all emotion, as if he had survived the war at the cost of his heart. Yukari had often said that Hokuyasu was cursed by his past, that she wanted to save him at all costs. Though Kiriri was but a child, she understood that her mother loved Hokuyasu very deeply, and that this love was the only thing keeping him from falling apart completely. She knew that her mother's death also meant the death of Hokuyasu's soul. Without a word, Hokuyasu hands Kiriri some cash. This is his way of signaling for her to go buy some halo halo, the Filipino shaved ice that she often shares with Ethica. Kiriri runs off to the dessert stand, there we go, and places an order. Eating sweet things put everyone in a good mood. Even Hokuyasu. At least, that's what her youthful logic tells her. She is still coming to grips with her mother's death herself, but she wants to ease Hokuyasu's suffering in any way she can. Not just because he's the one taking care of her, but for Ethica's sake as well. Kiriri and Ethica have been together for as long as she can remember, even back when Yukari was still alive. By the time they had started living together, they were already practically sisters. Kiriri can feel Ethica's pain as if it were her own. After Yukari died, Hokuyasu became like a completely different man. And that change has taken a devastating toll on Ethica. She has always loved her father. He was a commanding officer in the close quarters armed martial arts training unit, a war hero. She's prouder of him than anyone in the world. Wait, was the start of the change for Hokuyasu when Kiriri's mom died? Not when he had to kill Takeyuki? Huh. Still, that doesn't change the fact that he should have killed Takeyuki after Milgram gave Takeyuki the choice to revive Sakiko. But lately, Hokuyasu has been treating Ethica coldly. He looks at his own daughter with a spine-chilling gaze. But nevertheless, Ethica continues desperately trying to win his favor. It hurts to watch. Kiriri isn't sure why Hokuyasu is acting this way, but she wants to do something to help repair their familial bond. But in any case, where did Ethica go? Hopefully she'll be back before it melts. Kiriri heads back, hollow in hand. There, she finds father and daughter facing each other.
お前は産まなければよかった。
Man, he really has the face of a dead guy. Hokuyasu says this to his daughter, his own flesh and blood. It is at this moment that Ethica's life is derailed. It is at this moment that Kiriri realizes she's the only one who can ever possibly mend their relationship. There's no mending a relationship when your parents tell you you're not wanted in life, man. Especially at such a young age. Olga has had many aliases. Naturally, Olga itself is an alias that Milgram christened her with when she was initiated into the laboratory. Olga the slave trader was a persona she had established for her daughter back when she lived under a different name before Tokyo was frozen. After escaping her captors, she found herself without an identity and no way to establish a lasting one as an immortal. She had no choice but to lurk in the shadows of society. Eventually, she set her eyes on Japan, which had become a sort of political vacuum between the world powers, a welcoming environment for outcasts like her. After the Sino-American War, she returned to the now frozen Tokyo for much the same reason. I actually really dislike Olga, by the way. One, I don't really like her aesthetic, I don't like her design, and two, she's never really someone that I like personality-wise either. And throughout all the route, she is definitely one of the most annoying people to deal with. Post-war Tokyo was utter chaos, with the government, the military police, the ex-US Army, and other organizations all competing for power, allowing for less lawful factions to wedge themselves in. But that wasn't the only reason for her return to Tokyo. Milgram desires death in two forms. The first being the release of humanity from the curse of life. The second being the release of himself from the curse of life. The former is to be achieved by converting life material into living dead material and allowing it to consume the world. The latter is to be achieved by having Nagaoka Takayuki's successor show Milgram a beauty even greater than Takayuki's, so that he might finally know despair. At present, both goals are but pipe dreams. But Olga finds herself fascinated by Milgram, enough to want to aid him in his endeavors. I guess that's what Olga was planning on doing in Iria's route. She was planning on making the Tokyo Mega Float into a living dead. I guess the only perfect route for Milgram was really Kansu's route, right? That was literally the perfect route. He died and also got what he wished for, the Necropolis project. Once their work is complete, Kuroshima Michiya says his thanks. He still sounds as if he's in a state of disbelief.
助かったよ。君がいなければ失敗していた。
もらうものはもらったし、構わないわ。
As a slave trader, Olga's connections run deep. She has money to spare, isn't afraid to enact her will via violence, and knows exactly how to charm any man or woman thanks to over a century of experience. As long as she doesn't venture into open waters, so to speak, she is unstoppable. Perhaps it's no surprise that she had been sought out specifically for the task of secretly transporting a living dead to the Ikebukuro CPC. A living dead to the Ikebukuro CPC? Oh, okay. Aso Yukari. It wasn't easy, even for her, but it was worth it. Not for the money, but because it allowed her to establish a connection with Amachi Juichiro. In order to infiltrate Tokyo Megafloat, they need the cooperation of Amachi Robotic Industries. It's all for the sake of helping Milgram realize his dreams.
それにしても、こんな場所にこんなものを作るなんて、あなたも見た目に反して大胆ね。
彼女は私の夢だ。どうしても死なせるわけにはいかない。
Kuroshima's voice is tinged with insanity. He's preparing to re-kill the woman he loves. Before her emotions decay as a living dead, he will embed the electric signal pattern of her brain into an android body. An undertaking of no sane man.
実験体が必要だったらいつでも言ってちょうだい。いくらでも手配するから。
I used to think that these insane people are pretty interesting, but the more I think about it now, the more they're I don't know. The more I don't understand them. How could one have so much emotion that they would do something so stupid, you know? As Olga is leaving the room, Kuroshima lets his concerns spill forth.
君は私の行為が正しいと思うかね。
世の中は大抵間違っているわ。
True.
時には愛さえ偽りよ。偽りを愛せるようになったら一人前ね。
I don't know about that. Olga once knew nothing but despair, unable to possess hope for the future, but unable to die and escape her fate. Compared to those days, her present life is like heaven. Can you really not die? I thought that you actually died in Hokuya, when you were facing off against Hokuyasu, after you killed him though. Any suffering is long past. That's why she finds herself drawn to Milgram. She wants to save him from his profound despair. She wants to teach him the meaning of life. But Olga's own past prevents her from calling that emotion love. She has sinned too much. Basically, this search thing is telling us about everyone's main objective, or everyone's, what do you call it? Everyone's feelings and reasons for doing what they did. Kara Suzumi Katsu is one of the few attendees at the funeral. Nagaoka Takayuki had no living relatives. The family of his wife, Sakiko, had shunned Takeyuki for eloping with her, and after the necromancy, there was no way they would attend his funeral. Takeyuki's funeral, led by Kibanohara Hokuyasu, is attended only by a few of his fellow close quarters armed martial arts training unit members and his son. Takeyuki's son, Nagaoka Son, he too can be considered an orphan of the war. Unless someone reaches out to him, he has no future. Ikatsu mulls over that thought. Fate is like a torrential river sweeping you away. We're all just struggling to keep afloat in its muddy stream. Not even Ikatsu thinks he can control fate.
Oi, Bozu!
With their hands met beneath the water, it probably wouldn't hurt to at least greet him. Son looks up at him silently. How old is Son right now? Probably 3 years old or something, maybe 5 years old. The emotion in his eyes is ambiguous. It's not simply dejection, nor anxiety, nor despair. I still don't get it though. When did Takeyuki ask Milgram to revive Sakiko? I would assume it's right after Sakiko was dead. Huh. I don't know. It's as if he has lost the concept of emotion itself. Ah, yes. These are Takeyuki's eyes.
Bozu!
Ikatsu strokes the boy's head with his large hand.
笑えばなんとかなるもんさ。
Ikatsu-san.
Just hearing the boy's voice makes Ikatsu feel as if he's been transported back to the battlefield. More and more, Son reminds him of Takeyuki. Those dark eyes seem to suck in his very consciousness.
僕は人間ですか?
なんだって？
僕は人間ですか?
Ikatsu lifts his hand off the boy's head and raises it high, and then swings it down. He hits him like a hammer striking a nail. Though if you actually went through with it, Son would be dead. So it was only meant to look painful.
痛いか？
はい。
安心しろ。
Ikatsu laughs heartily.
だったら生きてる。
True, what Son said was not actually "Am I human?" I think he just said, "Is he alive?" But being alive doesn't necessarily... Or, you know, being human doesn't necessarily mean you're alive.
本当ですか?
ああ、本当だ。
When Ikatsu nods,
が、は、は。
Son lets out a stilted laugh. Don't do it, Ikatsu tells himself. It's like stray cats. You adopt one, and soon enough, you adopt a second and a third. Do you really think you can start looking after kids? After the dissolution of the Close Quarters Armed Martial Arts Training Unit, don't you have enough trouble putting food on the table as it is?
一括さん。
涼子、お前。
Ikatsu told her that he'd take a taxi back home since he didn't know how long it would take. Now this can't be good, he thinks to himself.
あら？隣にいるのは。
You know, the reason why Son was really like mechanical and robot-like is probably because of his childhood experience here. I learned that kids that don't necessarily like learn, like emotions aren't really stuff that's taught. It's something that kids look in like expressions and tries to understand what the hell is going on. Empathy is very much the same way. I wasn't very much thought about empathy when I was growing up, so that might be the reason why I'm feeling this lack of empathy. Doesn't mean that I can't learn about it right now, but it's still very difficult for me to try to do it.
ああ、坊主は
竹内さんの息子さんね。ソーンくんだったっけ？
はい。
乗っていく？
はい。
おい。
He's not the very bright kid though. Like coming with people that are not his parents. By the time Ikatsu tries to object, Ryuko has already shown Son into the car. In a panic, he jumps into the passenger seat and whispers into Ryuko's ear.
おい、今あの家に帰すわけには。
連れて行くのは私たちの家でしょ。さっきから捨て猫を目の前にした子供みたいな目してたわよ。
見られてたか。
可愛かった。
I also feel like Ryoko is not someone that I like. Ikatsu attempts to conceal his embarrassment.
でもよ、涼子。こいつを連れて帰るってのはつまり。
カラスズミ一括は死なないわ。今までもこれからも。
How irresponsible. Ikatsu gives up. Ryoko can see right through him.
だってあなたがいなかったら私生きていけないもの。私を困らせるようなことはしないでしょ。
Ikatsu laughs once more. He's no match for Ryoko. And really, there's no point living in fear of the future. Just keep plunging forward in the river as the muddy water tries to sweep you away. That's all Ikatsu knows how to do. How far back are we going? Is that Sakiko? Kibano... Oh, this is Soriyayuka. Kibano Harahokuyasu buckled beneath fate. The one he loved betrayed him. And in the worst form possible, necromancy. Nobody could help him deal with it. He had to put an end to it himself. He can still feel the sensation of murder on those two re-eliminators. It feels like jealousy. It feels like despair. It feels like a broken heart. It feels like a release. And it feels like madness. There aren't nearly enough words in all of the human lexicon to describe that sensation. Hokuyasu cannot forget the battlefield. He often thinks back to those days he spent on the precipice of life and death. Even as everything else faded into the darkness of the jungle, he could still feel the bonds he formed with his comrades bearing into his flesh. He can't explain that experience, or how it reshaped him. No one else could ever understand. So he had no choice but to kill. To kill the one whom he once loved. He knew that he had committed an unforgivable sin. He knew that death was the only possible release. It is the same now. He has committed an unforgivable sin. And the only possible release is... the scent of lotus. Aso Yukari. Hokuyasu knows of her affection for him, but he cannot reciprocate those feelings. After all,
私、あなたの子供を産むわ。
ゆかりくん。
あなたと長岡武之の子供。
you realize how crazy this is? You realize how stupid you are? Hokuyasu's blood runs cold.
何をバカな。お前は何を言っているか分かっているのか。
ええ、何度でも言うわ。
God, there are so many crazy people in this game.
死者の遺伝子を抜き取って私の子宮で育てましょう。あなたと共に生きた証を。 子孫の形で残しましょう。
なんというおぞましい。
You're even more repulsive for actually going through with it though, Okuyasu.
あなたが生きていくためにはそれが必要なの。
But he doesn't want to continue living.
あなたをこの世界に縛り付ける呪いが。
The fact that you can say that with a smile is so creepy.
バカなバカなバカな。
Okuyasu rebels against the very possibility. He holds his head in his hands, desperately trying to convince himself not to hope. Extracting DNA from the dead should be simple. And with the power of modern science, same-sex couples can have children too. As long as there's a surrogate mother to raise the unborn child.
あなたはもう十分に苦しんだ。
Man, I think I hate you.
だからお願い、ハスのウテナの半座を分かつ。私とその罪を分かち合わせて。
Okuyasu can find it in himself to brush aside her outstretched hand. He has nothing else to hold on to. If he must make a deal with the devil, then so be it. How else can he possibly find a reason to live? Fate bears down on Kibanohara Okuyasu heavily indeed. I mean, I don't know. We do need a reason to live. But are you really that attached to life at this point, Okuyasu? Milgram was once a painting conservator. There you go. He would restore damaged religious paintings, breathing new life into the past. A difficult field of work. It does not simply require artistic skill. It does not simply require the knowledge of chemistry to produce the proper materials. It does not simply require the ability to imitate the original painter. You must make the original painter's technique your own, thoroughly investigate the chemical makeup with the art supplies used, and perfectly recreate the creation of the painting, down to the precise mental state of the painter. Above all, it requires a keen understanding of the human experience. Using nothing more than brushstrokes on a canvas, you must produce a response in the audience. To restore paintings, you must be intimately familiar with every human emotion and how to elicit them. Milgram's talent as a painting conservator is what enabled him to become the king of the necromancers.
長岡武之が木場の原鉾安に殺されました。
そうか。
Milgram nods in quiet acknowledgement. This is hardly an unexpected outcome. He tipped the scales in this direction himself. When Milgram offered Takeyuki that fateful choice, Takeyuki chose life. If only he had been able to cast aside his attachment. No, to transform it into an expression of violence. What a beautiful sight that would have been to behold. But that's all in the past now.
ミルグラム様、なぜそこまであの男にこだわりを？
Normally, Milgram would not dignify this question with a response. But right now, he is in an unusually sentimental state of mind. His dream has died along with Nagaoka Takeyuki.
私がかつて絵画修復師だったことは知っているな。
はい。話は聞いています。
ネクロマンサーとなる前、私は古今東西の教会を渡り歩きながら、主に宗教画の修復に努めていた。 宗教画の修復は相反する2つの要素の上に成り立っている。一つは科学知識と冷徹さ。描かれた画材を分析し再調合し、長期の保存に耐えうる状況に仕上げること。もう一つは創作衝動と情熱。作者の宗教的情熱をたどりながら丹念にその作品の創作過程を再現すること。私の中でその2つは完璧に調和が取れていた。美しさを探求することこそ絵画修復師としての使命であり、私の信仰の証だった。
I think that's supposed to be Az there. Milgram looks up to the sky. He can almost see the vivid colors of that painting projected upon the dull gray clouds.
バルカン半島のとある打ち捨てられた教会に描かれた巨大なフレスコ画と出会った。全身から血を流す殉教者のあまりにも神聖ないでたちに私は一目で心を奪われた。長い年月にさらされて風化しかけたその壁画を何としてでも元の姿に戻さねばならないという使命感を持った。だが修復は難航する。フレスコ画の傷みが激しく、またその技法も特殊で今までに見たこともない画材が大量に利用されていたのだ。特に難航したのは殉教者から流れる赤黒い血だ。その材質が分からず何度も成分分析を行った結果導き出された答え。その血は人間の血肉を使って描かれていた。
宗教画にですか。
Pavlov's shock is warranted. Few things could be more blasphemous.
それは人の命を糧にして描かれた忌むべき絵画だった。神への冒涜だった。しかしそれは美しかった。これまで見たどの芸術よりも美しかったのだ。絵画を修復するのには人間の血肉が必要だった。オリジナルと異なる画材を使えば作品が間違いなく輝きを失うのは分かりきったことだった。
I mean, you could just use someone who's already dead, you know? Like go to a crime scene or something and use the blood.
その日、私の信仰は揺らいだ。
You didn't have to kill the human yourself. Milgram smiles in self-derision. At the time, that decision had felt so monumental, but that he ever struggled with it seems almost comical now.
使った。
ああ、美しさの前に私は屈した。私は現地の医者の協力を得て人間の血肉を使いフレスコ画を修復した。
Okay, so you didn't kill the human himself.
すると走る筆に作者の魂が乗ったような感覚があった。描いた人間の苦悩がまるで自分のもののように理解できた。私は一心不乱に筆を走らせた。なぜ人がこのような罪深い芸術を美しいと思うのか神に問うた。3日には一睡もせずその壁画に問いかけ続けたのだ。修復が終わった時、私は悟った。人は死を恐れ愛するべき人間を守るため争い殺し合う。死への恐れこそがあらゆる争いへの源だ。それは人間が進化の過程で獲得した本能だ。だが美しさは生死と独立してある。美しさをかきたてる感情こそが人間を本能から解き放つ唯一のもの。純粋な美は生と死を超越するのだ。
だからこそ人は 死を恐れてはならない。
Pavlov says, his voice trembling at the gravity of Milgram's words. Milgram's deepest desire is to be released from instinct, to die for the sake of beauty as a truly human, to find beauty pure enough to free him from all lingering attachments to life, so that he himself may become part of it in death, breathing his last breath on his own terms. He had believed that Nagaoka Takayuki could fulfill that desire. Man, I don't get you, Milgram. But his prayers have been left unanswered. Milgram must continue waging war with the world as the advocate for the Grave Crusade. He must continue to demonstrate that there is an alternative to the unbridled growth of humanity. And he must ask himself, does a person exist in this world who can realize a beauty greater than that of Nagaoka Takayuki? Who can use Milgram as material to paint a masterpiece? Milgram does not believe that there is. His hopes lie solely in the Necropolis project. Nagaoka Takayuki knew. He knew it was the laboratory that blew up the aircraft. He knew he was walking directly into a trap laid just for him. It was all a ploy to make him submit. He knew that. But knowledge isn't everything. His knowledge could not overpower his emotion. This is it. A church built during Western colonization, now abandoned and forgotten. Takayuki has finally arrived. He squints his eyes at the light leaking in from above. The ceiling collapsed long ago. Now, the only thing blocking the sun is the dense foliage of the trees overhead. Their branches rustle in the wind as birds screech. Takayuki staggers into the ruined church. This is wrong. The world is wrong. Everything is wrong. And he himself is wrong. But being on the battlefield has taught him something. That if he closes his eyes and plugs his ears, nothing will change. He has no choice but to struggle onward. No choice but to continue praying. Yeah, this is the first scene that we see in the game. Nemo ante mortem beatis. I forgot what that means. I think there was a translation for it. Oh, there we go. No man is happy before his death. Herodotus, the Histories. I mean, you might not be happy about your own death, but you can at least be content with your life, right? Content. Takayuki puts down his X-brain and steps forth. He can see the body of his loved one laid out nearby. The corpse of his wife Sakiko, who died when her plane crashed. Her arm was torn off in the crash, but has been stitched back in place. Her burnt skin has been restored. She looks just as she did in life, except for the fact that she's not moving. Is she blessed to be dead? Is he cursed to be alive?
さあ、選ぶがいい。
Milgram speaks. In this moment, he is a messenger of God.
最愛の人を殺した相手にひざまずくか、それとも私を殺すか。
What other choice does he have? Takayuki loves Sakiko. He cannot bear to live in a world without her. And so... just kill yourself then. But I guess most people don't really think about killing themselves. I think most people would actually do what Takayuki does. To live once more with his beloved. He kneels before the one who killed her, Whatever face Milgram is making now, Takayuki cannot see. I personally wouldn't do this though. It's not the same person. He silently approaches the body, and you don't do this like I said, because you love the person. For Milgram, this is nothing special. It's something he has done hundreds, thousands of times before. But for Takayuki, it's the moment when color returns to his ashen world. So what if it means denying everything he stood for until this moment? Miracles have their price. If I was Milgram, I probably would have just shot her again in the head or something. At this point, Takayuki doesn't even, like, become the thing that you want, right? So who cares what becomes of him? Just kill Sakiko again. Thus begins the era of the necromancers.